Here we go.
Just okay, Heath Ledger. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the American Fan Podcast. I am your host, Nick.
Along with Fletch, the Fletch and Nick Show.
Thank you guys for tuning in. This is the first episode. I've been wanting to do this for a while, as well as Fletch, and again, appreciate you guys tuning in. So why don't we just get right to it and talk about why we decided to do this show to begin with.
And if we look a little sweaty, it's because we're doing this in a barn, ladies and gentlemen. In the barn that I built like a couple months ago. In the upper portion of the barn. So we got two fans.
So it's about 95 degrees.
Oh, dude, we never turned on the other fan.
Well, we'll deal with that in a later time.
All right. So, Nick, go ahead.
Yes.
What's your, political background and, explain to the audience, why you wanted to do this?
So, my political background is, I'm just an American, right? So, I know a lot of people say they're the average Joe, but I truly am an independent, free-thinking American that is open to any idea that doesn't resolve into disaster, right?
Agreed.
And whether it's Republican, Democrat, center left, center right, whatever the case may be, I've always found myself within the last 10 years to just be someone who just loves talking to people about different things, whether it's pop culture, politics, business, anything.
Movies.
Well, movies is, pop
My
culture.
love life.
Your love life, yes.
That's a topic, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you.
That's a topic for later on.
Yes.
But essentially, it started off with me sort of getting involved in politics, starting with the 2016 election. Not that I necessarily voted or anything, but that's about when I really started paying attention. And that was because of the political divide, of who our candidates were. Honestly, kind of unique. You think about it. You had a celebrity run in 2016, and then you had a wife who was a wife of the Clintons running. So it was fairly unique and crazy to say the least. I think that's probably the nicest thing you can say about that election.
That was the most bizarre election that I've ever witnessed. Even more so than the last one. In my opinion, they were both bizarre in different ways.
Well, that definitely will be something we touch into later on. So eventually I started, I would have described myself as a center-left type of person. Not very left, but I didn't really know.
Agree. I leaned liberal earlier in my life.
I didn't even want to say, so I guess you could say I was liberal leaning, but but the thing is there are some things that are now that back then would be considered liberal values, and now they're not considered that anymore because the dynamics shift between the parties.
Correct.
Again, that will be something we get into later. And then I started getting tired of being labeled negative terms based on a defense that I would have for one candidate, whether it was a congressman, presidential candidate, or anything. And I'm what? I'm not allowed to defend something, even if I disagree with that person on practically everything else.
It's become so tribal. You're not allowed to go against a party thought, ideology. You're not allowed to do that in today's world. That's part of the purpose of what we're doing,
and that's
to get away from party affiliation and just talk about topics.
Yeah, and that's actually why. So to really shorten this up and then get to what the purpose of this podcast is, at least in my opinion, is eventually I started shifting towards right. Not because the left was you're a racist, you're a fascist, and whatever for any kind of opinion of the right. And even half of my opinions the right doesn't agree with, but again, that's a topic for later on. And then I started listening to more political commentaries, from the conservative side, the Daily Wire. Not to say I watch Fox News. Full disclosure, guys, I find every news media outlet to be discreditable. So Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, Breitbart, they all have their biases, and they're all made to divide you people.
MSNBC? You don't find them to be credible? CNN? No?
Most definitely not, considering what they've covered up. But I also find Fox News discreditable due to the fact of, they lied us into wars for 20 disastrous years. And, again, that's a whole other thing. But then I started listening to, the Daily Wire, and then, I was into the, facts don't care about your feelings, and I still am. As a principle, not as a reference to Ben Shapiro.
The principality of the
Yeah,
ideology.
it's facts don't care about your
over
feelings.
yeah,
The truth hurts, and if you don't like reality, well, tough crap. You know, reality is going to hit you in the ass in one way or another.
Agreed.
So eventually, fast forward after the 2020 election, I started becoming center right, but not like I used to be conservative, and now I'm like just center to conservative values. And I would say I'm centered because I disagree with the Republican Party when it comes to some practices, whether it's on Trump's end or the Congress end or anything like that. But I'm not afraid to say that in this last election, I did finally throw my support behind the candidate. That was Donald Trump. And it wasn't because I'm,
MAGA,
you know, like I'm not like, ultra MAGA and whatever, like, because it's because I just thought the other side had to lose.
The other two candidates, and primarily when it became Kamala, one candidate, they were atrocious. There wasn't really anybody to pick from.
Even if I went beyond that, like, honestly, I'm going to just reserve some of that, but let's just say that that's what happened. But just because I voted for Trump does not mean I need to align with him on everything. And I've been fairly critical of that, and I still am.
1,000%.
Yeah. But the whole point for me mentioning this is the fact that regardless of who you vote for, whether you agree with me or you disagree, I always just like to sit down and have a conversation with people. When people on the left want their opinions solidified, they go to the legacy media outlets, they go to Destiny, they go to the Young Turks or something, and whatever. If you're someone on the conservative side, you'll listen to Daily Wire, Fox News, Breitbart,
Correct.
Perhaps even Valuetainment, although, they have a center right, but they're not like hard, Republican and whatever.
Do you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? I live close to the airport.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
FYI.
So then even libertarians will listen to, like, Part of the Problem. Dave Smith, the host of that show, Scott Horton, and all that stuff. You will have all these outlets that help solidify their worldviews, whereas you guys can come here for anything. Like, I may have an ideology on the right that their views on pop culture might be attached to that, but for me, it's not. So just because I agree with the conservative side on something, they say, if you're a conservative, you're bound to like movies like, I don't know, Air Force One with Harrison Ford, or Top Gun, or anything
American Sniper.
Yeah, American Sniper or anything like that. But I'm able to say, and not to say I don't like any of the movies I just mentioned, Air Force One's my favorite Harrison Ford movie, but that doesn't mean it's because I'm... actually, here's another example, is, as a reference to this picture here, you see the American flag. We've even gotten to the point where if you have an American flag, you're called a conservative.
Correct.
I didn't know the American flag was only for conservatives.
It's not.
It's for
fallacy.
Americans. It's for Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, anything like that.
It's a narrative. It's a fallacy, but it's today's world.
So, in closing, because I have taken up more than half the time already, and this is why I actually like it when you start off, is...
No, keep going.
That's
what it's all about. We're just talking.
Yeah, we are just talking.
We haven't gotten to my love life yet, so I'll do more talking on that subject. Trust me. So... It's going to be a train wreck.
In closing, the purpose of this show is whether you come from the left, right, center left, center right, and you come from the popular crowd of, like, saying the movie is, like, the top 5 best movies because that's the mainstream opinion, or you have the unpopular opinion of saying, people say this movie is the best, but I actually disagree. I think the one prior or the one later is the best one. This is a show for all groups of people. It's not... Now, a lot of people on the left or right will say, hey, we welcome conversations, and I don't disagree with that. Daily Wire will talk with people on the left side, and even people on the Young Turks, they've talked with libertarians like, Dave Smith, and all that. And honestly, in closing, I also just want to give a shout out to the people who inspired me to do this. Even people who I don't watch anymore, I have to shout them out because without them, I would not have been inspired to do this. So shout out to the Whatever Podcast. Dave Smith hosts of Part of the Problem. Scott Horn hosts of the Scott Horn Show, the director of antiwar.com, or I think it's director of one of the I think he's like an editorial writer for antiwar.com or something. The director of the Libertarian Institute, that's what it was. The Young Turks, even though I disagree with you guys on 90% of issues, I do watch you sometimes. I respect your format, and you guys inspire me to do this.
I do like that show. It's thought-provoking, even though I don't agree with a whole lot.
And see, there's an example.
I like the fact that there's a counterpoint, there's a different, you can learn. That's another main part of the show. I love to learn. That's why I host trivia events. That's just who I am as an individual. I love to learn new things. That's what this platform is all about.
It's like,
come here, get some information, have some fun, right? Like in an open format, an open platform where everybody's welcome, and just engage in conversation where we can all learn something. You know?
Precisely. I'll just say, and even if you don't have enough time, because we got less than 4 minutes until we had to cut this episode for right now, but we could add to your introduction, like even the next episode or something like that. So I yield the rest of my time, whatever time I even have left.
I mean, my individual background, I'm like a sales guy. I've always been a sales guy pretty much my entire life. Like I say, I like to learn. I like to learn new things.
Yep.
But one of my favorite things to do is just to engage people in conversation, because my belief, I learn visually and I learn through audio. I learn through listening to somebody else that's an expert or near expert. Have you ever been?
Shout out to Joe Rogan too, by the way, on that topic.
He's the godfather of podcasts. That dude's amazing.
Yeah, he's the most successful podcaster.
Most successful guy, period. He's my idol, stand-up comic, the whole deal. But I just love to engage people in everyday conversation on subjects so you can learn something. I always feel, even if you don't agree with somebody, they can offer you a nugget of information.
Don't shut them down if you disagree.
I don't know if that's a McDonald's infringement, but a nugget of information where you can take away, you can put that in your pocket, and you go forward in life, and it benefits you. That's what this platform is all about. That's what the show's all about. That's what me and Nick are all about. That's why we're doing this. We're doing this for fun. We're doing this to give information to other people that they might not know, opinions that might encourage other people to think about movies, pop culture, other subjects in a different way. Where everybody's become so tribal over the last what I consider the last decade, especially post-COVID. Everybody has to fit into a tribe. That's not necessarily true. You can just be yourself. You can learn. You can engage people in conversation. If they're uber liberal or if they're uber conservative, you can still engage those people in narratives and come away with something that's beneficial, not only for you, but for the other person, right or wrong. So that's what the show's all about. In conclusion, we don't want to learn about me as an individual anyways. I'm a sales guy. I love my life. I have a great life. I love the people I have around me. I have a great brother, big brother. Shout out to Rich. He's going to watch this. He'll probably puke, but that's
I have a brother named Richard too.
You do?
Yeah.
Rock me up.
Yeah.
We both got a big brother, Rich.
Well, small. He's taller than me, but I am older than him.
Yeah, that's right. He's a little brother. Just in stature. But yeah, that's what we're all about. We got a minute left. Any other sentiments, any other comments before we cut the episode and then go into our part 2, which is going to be about movies?
What's it about? Yeah. We'll discuss after we're done. But in closing, I would just say this platform is going to be for an equal exchange of ideas, and there's no agenda against the left or the right or whatever. And I know people are going to say we're probably grifting or something like that. It's no, we're just here to have conversation. Who knows if this is even going to get beyond 15 subscribers? But
probably
I care about getting the message out there.
But guess what? Those 15 subscribers, you're going to be our best friends.
You absolutely are. Yeah. And we will remember you 15.
And I always go, one of my credos in life, will end it because we literally have 15 seconds, and it's a credo for the show. The mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open.
Amen.
So that's what we're about.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye now.